You know, Dana Bash is up on Capitol Hill, also our chief congressional correspondent. Dana, and it's a huge if the Speaker were to allow the language of the resolution that had already passed the Senate to come up for an up or down vote in the House of Representatives, almost all the Democrats, if not all of the Democrats, would vote for it. But a large number of Republicans, maybe even a majority of the Republicans, would vote for it at the same time. So why doesn't the Speaker let that resolution come up for a vote, and as a result, there would be no government shutdown?
It's a great question, but it's something that he does not seem willing to do, at least not yet. In fact, Wolf, despite the president's pleas for a clean CR, excuse me for using the lingo here, but for a spending bill that has no strings attached, it does not look like that the Speaker would even do that when the clock strikes midnight tonight and the government shuts down. Listen to what the Speaker said earlier today.
Is a clean CR off the table? Is that not going to happen?
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Do you think you're being fair to... When? It's not going to happen tonight before midnight, or it's not going to happen ever?
The House will act this evening, and we'll send it over to the United States Senate.
Dana, good question. He says it's not going to happen, but let's say he learns that a majority of the Republicans would vote for that resolution. I understand a lot of the Tea Party supporters would oppose it because nothing would be attached involving Obamacare. But let's say a majority of Republicans would support it. Would he then go ahead and allow it to be up for a vote?
From what I'm hearing from Republican sources, at least tonight, unlikely. And you're right, it doesn't seem as though it would be difficult to pass a bill that simply funds the government with no strings attached. The Democrats have already come out and said that they would support it, even though the funding level is lower than they would like. And there are a number of Republicans, in fact, who say, let's not do this. In fact, I spoke to one of them earlier today who spoke up in the meeting that House Republicans had, saying don't do that. But on the other side, you have a very vocal, very empowered minority of the minority, perhaps at this point, saying keep the fight up. Listen to interviews I had with two of those House members.
It sounds like what you're saying is that if the government does shut down, you believe it's House Republicans' fault.
Well, I'm not going to say it's the House Republicans' fault, but I suspect we'll be blamed, regardless of whose fault it is. I think it will look bad on everyone in Washington if the government shuts down. I suspect that the Republicans will be more blamed than the Democrats will. But I'm urging my colleagues that a government shutdown is not in anyone's interest. It's not in the American people's interest. It's not in our troops' interest. It's not in the Republican Party's interest. It's really in no one's interest. So I say get on with the business of governing, get it done. And we'll be able to debate some of these issues again with the debt ceiling. We're going to have all these debates again over the next few weeks.
Are you fighting a kamikaze mission here? I mean, you know the way the Senate Democrats are going to respond, and they run the show over there.
If our Senate colleagues want to vote against what I think every American would think is right, that is that we're all in. We're not getting a subsidy either on the Affordable Care Act. I mean, this resonates deeply with the American people. They want members of Congress to live like everybody else. And so I think it's a wise path. I've been critical of our leadership many times, but I think this is a viable path.
And that viable path is not so much the House plan to delay the individual mandate for a year, which is part of what they're going to vote on early this evening, but also the idea that members of Congress, their staff, the executive branch, people who serve in the federal government here in these halls should not get federal subsidies for their health care. The Republicans are banking on the fact that that might be very difficult for members of Congress politically to vote against, even though personally and in their pocketbooks it will be hard for them to vote for. But again, just to make clear, down the hall in the Senate, the Democratic leader insists they will reject, they have the votes, they will reject what the House sends over, and that is going to put us very close to midnight. And just to sort of wrap this up where we started, House Republican sources are saying that at this point it looks unlikely that they are going to do what the president, do what the Democrats want, fund the government in a way that he will sign it, and that means a government shutdown at midnight.
Well, it could be a government shutdown at midnight, but they can stay in session, the House and the Senate, till 3, 4, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and see what they can do by tomorrow morning when people are supposed to go back to work. Dana, could be a long